Open-world, collectible riddled games have been dominating our gaming landscape for years and years. Some of them are great, some of them are a total slog. So today we wanted to highlight some of the modern must-play games that have gone the other direction, keeping it simple, a little more of a straightforward ride, really just kind of either watching or experiencing a movie or story-like adventure with a little bit of good gameplay peppered in, and that's pretty much it. There is nothing wrong with some good old-fashioned one-and-done games. So today we have 15 modern linear games that we highly recommend you check out.
Where are you going?
Just over here.
Just stay there for a second, okay? I'm almost done.
Starting off with number 15, we've got The Quarry. The Quarry from Supermassive Games is not perfect. It didn't quite captivate like Until Dawn did, but it was kind of just a bigger budget, prettier looking, more expansive game like that. Essentially, there is gameplay. You're kind of walking around, exploring areas a little bit, but it is a lot of choices, a lot of quick-time events. For some people, they might not like it, but if you're into like government mode games or these types of adventure games, this is one of the best. It's essentially watching a slasher teen horror movie with all the right late 2000s, early 2010s vibes, really getting into it. Actually establishing the characters a little bit before they all get slaughtered, and then you figuring out how they get slaughtered and who survives and everything. It's an interesting mystery. It's got some interesting monster stuff. There's some surprise stuff in the story. The acting is solid and the cast is great. We've got Ted Raimi, David Arquette, Ethan Suplee, Ariel Winter, Skylar Gisondo. There's a lot of actors in here, and they all do a pretty good job. The graphics are impressive. There's a lot of uncanny valley stuff, but if you want a good choose-your-own-adventure type thing, a good movie-like thing like this, The Quarry is a good one. Now, next over at number 14, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The new Modern Warfare 2 from 2022. We sound like a broken record at this point, but we always love to highlight Call of Duty campaigns. There's a lot of good ones. There's also a lot of bad ones, but the good ones, when they're good, they're amazing. They're solid, just action-packed, fun, roller coaster-type rides with lots of interesting locations, lots of interesting weapons, some over-the-top stuff, and this one captures all of that. There's a lot of explosions, but there are some good contained moments and some surprises like a full mission that is essentially the biggest inspiration from like Uncharted we've ever seen in this type of game. It sounds weird like a Call of Duty game takes something from an Uncharted game, but if you've played it, you know exactly what level we're talking about here. There's also some sneaky, shooty stealth stuff, and then it ramps up towards the end with some pretty badass action movie stuff. It's definitely not the best one, but it is a pretty solid one worth playing at least once.
Mia, get down! Mia!
Next over at number 13, we've got Resident Evil Village. Now, Resident Evil Village is Resident Evil 8, but it is one of the more streamlined and straightforward Resident Evil games. Now, that doesn't mean there's a bunch of exploration to be had, a couple of secrets, mostly some really interesting locations, characters, and boss fights, but it's a to-the-point adventure, and it's pretty jolly. It's a good, fun time to sit down whether you're playing it with a keyboard and mouse or controller or playing in VR. It is one of the most almost, I want to say, action-y Resident Evil games, and sometimes it even feels like a theme park ride with the way you go through all the different areas, all these different scenarios of spooky things in the woods somewhere in Romania and stuff like that. It was just very cool, and it's an easy game to kind of sit down on a weekend and plow through. It's also really pretty and has a little bit of replayability after you finish it with some extra modes, clearing through it really quickly, getting infinite ammo weapons and stuff like that. Now down at number 12, we have Metal Hellsinger. Metal Hellsinger is a linear single-player game. It's one tap and you're done, but it's one-on-one hardcore experience. This essentially is a Doom-inspired first-person shooter with a great hook. Now music, specifically metal, is part of the gameplay experience here. So you are shooting to the beat. It is essentially a rhythm shooter. It might take a minute to glue with you. Maybe you could just shut that part of your brain off and just play it like a good first-person shooter, and it is, but the shooting of the beat thing comes back in, and it really is satisfying, especially once they start ramping up the metal music in the background, which is so good. It features a ton of cool vocalists from different prominent metal bands, and it's great. It tells a little story here with some awesome narrator who just sounds like some gruff, cowboy outlaw type. It's just got a great vibe. It keeps you going. It gets progressively harder and weirder, and there's a lot of different powers and weapons to mess with. It's just like a really good chunk of game. When we played it, we literally just sat down in one session and kind of experienced the whole thing, and it's awesome. Now, next over at number 11, we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Now, this is a one-and-done glory hole. This game is fantastic, and if you're an old-school gamer who grew up playing Ninja Turtles games in the arcade or on the Super Nintendo, the visuals are definitely going to hit home for you. This is good stuff, but it also really feels authentic to that Saturday morning cartoon experience, but it has full-on multiplayer, and it's got a story campaign, a simple thing, but you're fighting bad guys, you're fighting Foot Clan members, you're fighting Rocksteady, you're fighting Bebop, you're fighting Krang, you're fighting Shredder, you're fighting all the classic bad guys. It's great for that. You're plowing through the game, going through, playing as your favorite Ninja Turtle, and eating pizza. It's just great stuff. It's all cake. It's all icing on cake. I don't know whatever the saying is. Everything about this is really good, but also if you're looking for replayability, you can play through a story campaign as all the different turtles. You can also play as April O'Neil. You can play as Splinter. You can play as Casey. It's fun stuff. There's a lot of ways to play, and it's just good.
Nice shot! Does hunger always make you this accurate?
But next over at number 10, we have A Plague Tale: Innocence. This starts a series of games that are nice and story-focused, very linear, and pretty easy, but first, we're rolling with the first one. It tells an interesting story in a recognizable setting, but doesn't quite go the route you'd expect. It is still, a series of events and environments and missions to go through like in an old linear game. It's not going in any complicated directions, but the story is complicated, and the characters, and there are a lot of really interesting rats. The main protagonist, Amicia, is a great character to root for. The pain-in-the-ass child you're carrying around, at first you hate him, but then the story kind of twists and gives you some different feelings. It's just good. Stealth action, adventure, occasional action, some good exploration, some tense moments through the play style. Of course, this is going to appeal more to some people than others, but there's a sequel also I'm going to get into a little bit later that does the linear adventure game thing even better. Next at number 9, we have Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread is a great side-scrolling Metroid-style adventure, and it's pretty straightforward. You play as Samus Aran. You're dropped on this planet, and you're going from left to right, up and down, getting abilities, in some ways unlocking essentially new abilities that are very linear and keep you going to experience new areas and environments and see and experience new rendered things. It's essentially kind of like a more old-school Metroid adventure, but a little bit more linear. It keeps you going for it, and it drags you in by the feel of the weapons, the sounds of all the stuff, the exploration, and the discovery of new abilities, and just the movement feeling of Samus, especially by the end of the game, and you're flying through obstacles and blowing up bad guys left and right. It's just really, really cool. There are some really lame kind of like stealth sections with these EMMI robot things, but all the other main Metroid stuff in the game was worth it for us. Now, next over at number 8, we have Little Nightmares 2. Now, Little Nightmares 2 is obviously a sequel. You should probably play the first one first, but they're both great games. They're simple, side-scrolling, puzzle platformer games, light on the puzzles, and very heavy on the atmosphere. They do the whole thing. You're a little character in a big, giant world, and everything is scary really well. The first game had a really great vibe. The second game keeps it up and expands upon it a little bit more with a little bit more of a full-fledged story, some more characters, and some new types of gameplay a little bit. The things that you're encountering, the bad guys, the surrealism, the world itself, the music, all of it really just keeps you going. And depending on your skill level, this could be a real quick, simple afternoon romp of a game, and it's a good one because these games do have to be experienced.
No qualms hunting down refugees from a world we destroyed?
During the Iskalon uprising, you taught me to ignore propaganda.
Now, next over at number 7, we have Star Wars Squadrons. Star Wars Squadrons is more on the hardcore side, but if you have dabbled in spaceflight sim stuff, then this is at least like kind of a cakewalk, but it's simpler compared to that. It does support 2 VR headset support, which is one of my personal favorite ways to play it, but even if not, what you're getting here is a single-player story adventure of like full-on flying in an X-Wing or flying in a TIE fighter. It's very different from the action in a Star Wars game. You're actually behind the controls with a bunch of meters and jumping around, doing things, things, doing moves, and actually speeding up and controlling speed a little bit more like a sim. It's good stuff, and it's full of beautiful Star Wars iconography, recognizable planets, new characters, but also some familiar faces. You're going from zeroing out in space and telling this mystery story from two different perspectives, both the good guys and the bad guys. It's a pretty good time. You could probably run through it all in a weekend depending on your skill level because some of the later scenarios do get pretty tough.
No, run!
Now, next over at number 6, like Plague Tale Innocence, like we mentioned earlier, there's a sequel. This time it's a Plague Tale Requiem, and it is creepier, weirder, darker, and grosser. It improves upon practically everything in the first game, and it's longer. It's good stuff. The combination of like the adventure, stealth moments, brutal action, storytelling, and some of the crazy rat swarm scenarios at play, that sort of stuff happening here is ratcheted up. There are some real, genuinely disturbing things, and it just also shows good character growth. Amicia, the main protagonist, has come a long way, and it's just a great, gross adventure, and like we said, it's a bit longer than Innocence. So you really get your money's worth with this one. This is a great weekend game. Just sit down, plow through it, experience the linear adventure. It's awesome. Next over at number 5, we have Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is like something straight out of the Dreamcast days, and we mean that in a good way. It's colorful, it's wild, it's charming, and it's very Japanese, but not in like an obnoxious anime way. And it's essentially a third-person action-adventure combat game where the combat and the action is linked to music because you play as this character named Chai who wants to be a rock star. He's like a nobody loser, but a freak accident causes him to have essentially an MP3 player embedded in his chest. He's got music in the core of his body and his soul, essentially, because everything in this game has him tapping to the beat of a song, and things are timed around that. And then you also got to get used to actual arena combat scenarios with beating bad guys by doing specific combos, hitting specific combinations, and blocking in specific ways, all linked to the beat of the music. It might sound complicated, but it eventually kind of clicks with you, and it has some pretty creative boss fights, a great sense of adventure, and forward motion with levels, and really great music. It's not all original music, so it's all licensed stuff, meaning it's actually good. So expect to hear 9 Inch Nails or The Prodigy while you are beating up bad guys with a guitar, like really, really good stuff. Now, next over at number 4, we have Stray. Now, Stray may on first glance look like a simple 2020s meme-type game, but it's so much more than that. This is a game where you play as a cat, but it's not just, playing as a cat and the fact that you can jump up on things, knock things over, and behave like a cat, jump into buckets. It really captures all of that, right? But it's put within the framework of a traditional adventure game, wrapped in a beautifully rendered world that has so much charm and mystery to it with a sweet, touching, emotional story. Stray really does kind of have it all. And playing through it for the first time is very surprising. It's well-paced, it's fun to explore, it's full of Easter eggs and cool things to see, and as an adventure game where you're kind of jumping around and exploring environments, it gets that cat feel really right. It also has elements of other things like stealth and some full-on action, some really interesting surrealist action moments that remind us of moments from Half-Life. But Stray is absolutely worth the price of admission.
Sounds like scrap rats. Creepy. Just passing through, guys. No need to come out and say hi this time.
Next over at number 3, we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now this is an interesting one to consider. Of course, it is more of like a modernized Souls game. It borrows stuff from Dark Souls, but it's kind of linear, you can describe, and it's one of the shorter, more straightforward Star Wars games we've gotten in years before that. Now the sequel is even bigger and longer, but we chose the first one here because it is a little bit more of a to-the-point adventure, and it's a great one. You got an interesting character with Cal Kestis and the adventure he goes on, some good emotional moments, some engaging action, lots of fun stuff like exploring as a Jedi, getting new Jedi abilities, getting a lightsaber and chopping up stormtroopers, and customizing it in different ways. And if you like Souls games, this isn't a kind of a really full-on linear game. You are kind of zipping back and forth and choosing different planets, going back and retreading your steps and stuff, but it feels like a linear action-adventure game. So we wanted to include it here, and if you're planning to jump to the sequel, then playing this one is obviously the first option. Now, down at number 2, we have Sifu. Sifu is a bullish type of action game, so depending on your skill level, it might take longer than other people to beat it. But that's kind of the point. It's a linear single-player action beat 'em up with some skill tree and progression. RPG elements mixed with like roguelike stuff where you need to be very careful. Because if your character dies, they actually get older. Their lifespan just gets shorter. And also your amount of points and XP and resources can deplete and disappear if you get too old and you die. So it has like hardcore stakes elements to it with a little experience on like learning a really good combat system with some unique environments and really radical boss fights. Every time you get to a boss encounter here, it really does kind of sing. It's a really just straightforward, good, engaging game. And it's like one you play a bunch of times because like along with it, it has the roguelike elements, but also being able to go back and play levels and try to absolutely perfect them like you're essentially trying to play through an entire level as a young character. So you're never using up any of your life and abilities and resources, stuff like that. It's brilliant, and fighting people in this game feels really, really good. Now down at number 1, we have Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 is a great progression of like the classic third-person fighting, stylish action character action game, and it has all the stuff you could want. It has the progression, lots of new abilities, powering up your guy, whether you're Dante, Nero, or the new character V, or Virgil, if you're playing the newer version, which is also a good one. The game is pretty banging. Story cuts, an amazing rock and metal type soundtrack, and a surreal, over-the-top world full of cool bad guys and boss fights. Devil May Cry 5 has it all. It's also a long campaign, and in traditional Devil May Cry fashion, it gives you like a little mini preview of what the next mission you're going on is, and slowly tells an anime opening and closing type story as you hack and slash your way through the game. Devil May Cry 5 is really good, but those are 15 modern linear games from the last 10 years or so that you gotta play. There's plenty more where this came from. So if you want to see a part 2, let us know. But in the meantime, if you are either looking for something fun and simple to recommend, or you just want to talk about linear games that you've played either older or newer, let's talk about anything video games down in the comments.